Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPautos.com, your libertarian car guy. Wanted to talk a little bit about the problem with insurance, car insurance specifically, and more finally, the problem of rapidly, by double digits, increasing premiums, even for people who have given no reason to justify this in the form of a claim or an accident, or for that matter, even a traffic ticket. In my own case, my liability-only policy has more than doubled over the last 2 years, and I haven't had a ticket even in, I don't think, 7 years was the last time I had a minor traffic ticket, and I've not been in an accident in 30-something years. So, it's kind of annoying. And it makes you wonder, well, how come we're paying more for car insurance, particularly when, at least under the old rules, you generally had to have done something to justify it in the form of having an accident, filing a claim, something like that. Well, the reason is that cars have gotten a whole lot more expensive, new cars, and even if you don't buy one of these things, the insurance companies are adjusting the cost of everybody's premium to reflect the repair and replacement costs of new cars that have escalated in price by $15,000 over the course of the last 3 years, such that the average transaction price, that's a piece of verbiage that's used within the business, meaning, what people tend to pay for an average car, is now $50,000. So it's up about $15,000 versus roughly 2022, 2023, and we're all paying for that. And I think a fair argument can be made that that shouldn't be the case. That it's wrong to force people who deliberately choose or have no choice about the vehicle that they're driving, and they choose to buy, or I shouldn't say buy, they choose to keep and drive an older car that's a low book value car, and for that reason it doesn't cost a lot to insure the thing. And yet now their insurance costs are going up because of the choices made by other people to buy new cars. Nobody has to buy a $50,000 new car. People choose to, and that's great. I'm a free market guy. I'm a libertarian. I think if you want to buy a $100,000 car, a $300,000 car, absolutely, that's your prerogative. But I do think we've got a real problem in this cost shifting. At the same time, I'm going to address the issue that a lot of people have with me when I talk about my objections to mandatory car insurance as such. They'll say something like, well, that's imposing too much of a potential risk on other people, on society, and so on. I don't agree with that, but I do have a solution to that, I think, that's fair. And the solution is this. If we're going to have to force people to buy liability coverage, how about we limit what they're forced to buy to a $30,000 replacement cost in terms of damages to a vehicle? Now, that would mean that people who don't own a vehicle that costs more than that are not being forced to pay extra because other people have chosen to buy the more expensive vehicle. And the flip side of that is, if somebody does choose to buy a vehicle that's, say, $50,000, well, they'd potentially be covered in the event you hit them up to $30,000. However, anything beyond that would be on them. They would need to get a rider or something, some additional coverage on top of whatever the state mandated minimum is. And I think that this is a solution that would at least hold in check the escalating costs of car insurance that are becoming very, very, very difficult for people working and middle-income people to deal with, and is putting them in the position of essentially being forced out of their cars because they can't afford to cover them anymore. Of course, that might be exactly the objective here. I personally think that it is. It's part of the long-term objective, which is to make it so that only very affluent people can afford to own and drive a car. But if you're somebody who just wants there to be a reasonable spreading out of the risk of damages caused by people driving cars, that's the argument for forcing people to buy car insurance. Fine, okay, but let's cap it at, say, $30,000, which is, that's well within the range of all sorts of basic family type cars. Nobody needs to buy anything beyond that. And if they want to, great, let them buy it, but then let them pay the extra cost for that. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, more over at EPautos.com, the web's best libertarian gearhead site. I'll be on Brian Hyde's show tomorrow at 9 o'clock. East. And then, of course, on Wednesday, I'll be doing the Wheels Up segment with my friend Bill Meyer over at KMED FM in Medford, Oregon, and that will be at roughly 9:30 East. And so we got those on deck, and there'll be some other things up at EP Autos as well. Thanks as always for listening, and we will have more for you again soon.